It's Will Shawn Podcast. The internet cried out for two more blowhards, and they courageously answered that call. Armed with the weapon of wit, each week they're joined by guests to discuss movies, television, pop culture, and anything else that's pissing them off. Take it away, boys.
I'm Will Link.
And I'm Sean David.
And this is Will Shawn Podcast.
It's the beginning of a new world order. How you doing, Will?
So I was at Starbucks the other night.
Like you do.
And there was this girl, attractive girl, behind the counter, and she starts talking to me.
Was she 16?
I don't know. I don't know how old she was.
Okay.
But we start talking a little bit, and she starts asking me some questions. And this is right by the Warner Brothers lot.
Like if you want soy milk or almond milk?
No. Like like things like about my day. And this is right by the Warner Brothers lot. And she keeps talking to me. And I was with a friend, and I'm thinking, oh, this girl's like flirting with me. Like, and you never know with food service people if there's. But I'm like, no, she's like asking a lot of questions. She's being really folksy. And then she goes, so she starts asking me about the Big Bang Theory. And I don't like the show, The Big Bang Theory. I've actively said on this podcast, I think it's a terrible show. But she starts asking me about it. And then there's like this pause. And she goes, you kind of look like the guy from The Big Bang Theory. I said, oh, the Johnny Galecki guy. I can't remember the characters' names. And she's
Leonard.
Like, yeah, you kind of look like him. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I go to get my drink. I'm like, I think that girl was flirting with me. And she goes, no, I think she thought you were that guy.
Was this our mutual friend?
Who?
That you were with?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, what? But you know what? This has happened
before?
Online, when I did shows for Collider, people would be like, you look like Leonard and I'd be like, no, I don't. It's just my glasses. And I'm convinced it's that with her, but maybe she thought
without the glasses, like Raj, so.
Maybe she thought I was Galecki.
She thought you were going to be her ticket out of that Starbucks.
I'd take her out of that Starbucks.
One-way ticket out of Baristiville.
Yeah. And then later, though, I went back to get another drink.
At the same place? How much caffeine do you need?
No, I was bringing it to somebody else. And then the person said, then she started talking to me about, this is going on a while, I apologize, but she was saying, Daniel Roebuck came in here, which I thought was a weird thing to say because I'm the only one who would know who Daniel Roebuck is.
He was my 10th grade math teacher.
Was it? No.
Well, same name.
But I mean, he was like he played Jay Leno in The Late Shift. He was in River's Edge. He was on Lost for a couple of episodes. Like nobody knows who Daniel Roebuck is. And then she goes, "Yeah, Daniel Roebuck," and he offered to mentor me.
I'm sure he did.
Thinking like he's a creep, but she was like, "No, he's like a really good guy." And then I got the hell out of there.
Good story.
Anyway, what's going on in the world of Will Shawn Podcast?
Listen, people, the only way to stand up against tyranny is to subscribe to the Will Shawn Podcast.
Yes.
Is to download the Will Shawn Podcast. Is to listen to the Will Shawn Podcast. Is to tell people about the Will Shawn Podcast. Because the revolution begins here. In our inane weekly pop culture rantings.
If enough people download this episode, in particular.
The National Endowments of the Arts will be saved.
Yeah, they're going to fucking try to get rid of the National Endowment of the Arts.
Well, you don't want to mess with Medicare, so, fuck those poets.
Can't we have it all?
No. Well, today's going to be a very art-centric episode of the Will Shawn Podcast.
Is it? I think some of the things we're talking about aren't that art-centric.
No, listen, our guest is very art-centric.
Yes. And who is our sponsor this week?
Stay safe this year with foil blankets. Keep one at home, one in the car, at your office. In the event of cyber attacks, just drape yourself with a soothing foil blanket.
I got 6.
It's good. You need
6 of them.
You got one in every room of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I never want to be more than 5 feet away from a foil blanket.
Well, listen, it's going to be de rigueur in the next couple of years.
On the show today, the Pope is young. I repeat, the Pope is young.
Oh my God.
We are going to discuss. Also, who loves the circus? Well, if you do, you're shit out of luck because the circus is closing. And Apple has introduced something that will allow you to text in a movie theater, and I think you know my thoughts on this. But first, we are very excited. You're right, it is an artful episode because we're very excited. We have an opera singer. We have a great singer,
Yay.
opera singer, Jessica Gonzalez-Rodriguez.
Hey, hi everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, how have your opening minutes been on the Will Sean podcast?
Very entertaining. I'm highly entertained by this discussion.
Oh, you
I
can
love
come by every week and
I
watch us
know.
do this.
I should. I know.
So, Jessica.
Yes.
I always like to start
Okay.
with the guest's origin story. Where are you from? What what made you you? What was your spider bite?
Ooh.
Radioactive spider bite.
Radioactive spider bite. I am from LA, so a native Angelino.
Woohoo.
Yay!
Two of us in a room.
Right. Which is that's so rare, right?
Yeah,
That's
almost
really
everyone we
weird.
have on this show is always from I am from East Texas and everything was shitty, so I left. Or I'm from Western Massachusetts and everything was shitty, so I left.
You're from LA and
From
everything was
LA.
wonderful, so you stayed.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's been great. I love it here, and you can't beat the weather, right?
Seriously.
But so I grew up here, and no one in my family was a singer, weirdly enough. So we're still trying to figure out where.
No
that
aunts,
kind
no
of,
uncles, no.
No, I mean maybe the closest thing. My mom had 3 brothers,
Yeah.
and one of them he does play guitar and sings a little bit. He doesn't consider himself a singer, but he likes to kind of fool around as his hobby. So maybe
But there's
from
no
him,
musicians. There's no genetics in the family.
No.
But did your family always have an appreciation for music?
They did, yeah. I remember my mom playing the KUSC on Sunday mornings used to have a children's program, and they would play Peter and the Wolf and just really other famous classical pieces geared for kids. So she'd play that for me, and then one of her other brothers, he loved opera and he loved music in general, and he had a lot of vinyl albums and would play them and would sing along, and so I inherited a lot of his stuff and he had encyclopedias on opera and so he was an opera lover. So maybe I got it from that.
It must have gotten a little bit from that.
Yeah. And so my parents actually put me in dance when I was 4, so I was always a performer.
Yeah, but when you're 4, you have no choice over these things.
Right, yeah. And I really loved it. So I still dance actually professionally, and it's a lot of fun, and so I'd always been a performer. So for me, then choosing to be a singer wasn't really that nerve-wracking or different.
But did you find that you had a skill for it? Was there a school play or something where that some talent was identified? Or did you just say, I want to try singing?
Well, I would kind of sing along to Christina Aguilera or something like that,
Listen, who hasn't?
Right, I know. Some so sexy.
Oh, I like that no one knows, but Sean actually did a little shimmy to
That's
that.
the most dancey you'll ever see me do.
He actually did the move from the music video. It was pretty impressive.
It's a good music video.
But I would sing along, and I realized, okay, I can sing, I just don't know what the hell I'm doing, so I need to get a voice teacher. I had that much sense at 13, you know?
Oh, I was about to ask. That was fairly early on, though, that you were
yeah.
Oh, I'm young, and I want to keep doing this, so
Yeah.
let's take this seriously.
Yeah, and the way I really decided I want to do it was in 8th grade.
Yeah.
At our school, we had a talent show, so me and 3 of my friends, we did Destiny Child. We did Destiny Child song.
What song?
Oh, God. I don't even freaking remember. What
No
song
one
was it?
does. Or any Destiny's Child song.
I don't even remember what song it was. But I remember we performed in the talent show, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely what I enjoy doing. I like singing in front of a crowd. This is really fun. Let me explore more of this and get a teacher and see what all this is
so let me
about.
ask you, in high school, most people that we've had on this show and we've talked to who have musical talent end up doing musical theater.
No.
Because in the high schools generally that's what's available.
Yeah,
Glee club and musical theater.
I say no because I went to a medical magnet high school, so it was very science oriented, like STEM. They were really big into STEM, and so
It was a Hidden Figures Academy.
Right, and I loved it because I also loved science, so I did very well at the school. But we didn't have a musical theater anything, and our choir was awful. Yeah. And so I didn't do any performing stuff at the school.
So you had to do it on your own separate.
Yeah, so I did it on my own. I went to, it's the LAMAS, the Los Angeles Music Academy and School or something like that.
Okay.
And it's in East LA. And so I found my voice teacher there, Melody Fernandez, who actually runs the Zarzuela project at LA Opera.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was my teacher for 8 years, and she slowly introduced me to opera. She first had me learn some musical theater stuff and like light opera, kind
just
of
like
pop
basics,
opera. Yeah, just to see where my voice was, if I could do it, if I liked it.
A little Die Fledermaus.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so then when I was about a junior in high school, she was like, "Oh, I want you to learn this opera piece." And I was like, "Great." And it was L'Ho Perduta from La Notte di Figaro, the little Barberina aria, which is, it's really short.
From the Marriage of Figaro.
Yeah.
I figured, when I heard Figaro,
Yeah.
I figured.
And it's really short. It's like maybe a minute long. It's really simple.
By W.A. Mozart,
Right.
who's the supporting character in Amadeus.
Ah, yes. I know it well.
Yes. So, oh God, his laugh is awesome. I really like to think that he actually laughed like that. Let's hope.
Wolfie.
I know. So that was the first piece that I learned, and then I learned, of course, O mio babbino caro, because that's like
of course,
from Johnny's Kiki by Puccini.
Every young female singer learns that aria.
So that's like a standard. Like everyone
time.
Who's come up has.
Yes,
just explain briefly. This is like
it's
the way you're taught on
I know nothing about opera.
Okay,
but they're standard pieces, like repertoire pieces that are
introduce you to what the repertoire is,
but also are challenging enough to stretch your opera muscles, but aren't so like rigorous that you're gonna ruin yourself trying to sing.
Right, exactly. And they kind of reveal to you and your teacher where you're at technique wise, and what you need to work on, and also where your voice is going, how it's progressing, that kind of thing. And yeah, it's standard rep. It's
now one thing about opera singers, I mean, because opera is sang, for some people who don't know, there's no microphones, unlike Broadway, which we'll get to in a minute. But because opera is unamplified, your voice needs to be trained and robust and vigorous.
Right.
But your voice also continues to develop as you age.
And change. Yeah.
So what's the average age where most opera singers, their voice begins to settle into kind of what it really is?
In a general sense, for men, it's usually between like age 37 and 40. Yeah. For women, it's kind of around the same. Yeah. I would say probably between 38 and like 42.
Oh, really?
So if you start studying opera at age 15, you're not going to hit your real stride till you're in your late 30s. So that's a solid.
It's almost 20 years later.
That's 20 years of training and like work experience. I mean, you still have an amazing voice, but it's not at its full potential yet.
And that's the great part. That's what I really enjoy, is that because it's a part of your body, so it's constantly evolving and changing. So it makes it more interesting in that way. It's not ever going to be quite the same.
It's interesting because I feel like almost every other profession that you train, you're at your best when you're
like 25.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, all the best
athletes or dancers,
or even like a lot of musicians that we think of, that they're always at their peak, maybe in their late 20s, early 30s.
Right, they had their best album or whatever.
But most opera stars, like you can be a successful, wonderful opera singer in your like late 20s and 30s, but your career, if you don't blow your voice out, your career will continue from
Well, let me ask this then, because one of the questions I'm going to ask is what is a career in opera singing like? And it feels like it is just really, your whole career is just practice.
Yeah, it is a lot of practice, a lot of repetition. It also depends on how you learn. So some people, they don't need as much practice. It just, their ear can naturally pick up the melodies or the whatever music they're learning quickly, and it kind of sticks with them in their brain. And then other people need a lot of repetition.
Well, it's like Placido Domingo is in his 70s. Yeah. He continues to sing and perform, and his voice has gotten deeper as he's gotten older. But one of the reasons, husky. But one of the reasons I've heard for the longevity of his career is that he can look at a piece of music. First of all, he knows all of it, but he can look at a piece of music. He doesn't need to sing it in order to practice it. He just knows his voice and his body so well.
He can sight read it.
He sight reads it. He memorizes it, and when it's time to sing it, you just point at him and he can sing it. So if you think about just like a car, you can only put so many miles on a car. So if he has gone through his career not having to sing through these practices, not having to sing through these rehearsals, that just has saved his vocal cords all this mileage because he could sight read it, memorize it, and when he needs to sing it, he just knows how to make all the notes.
So
he can do
the
it.
skill of sight reading is like if you have the music in front of you, you can hear it just by reading it.
Yeah.
You don't need to actually play it or sing it. It's like you have a piano in your head.
Yeah.
And it's really incredible when there's someone who can do that very well. Because I've seen it done and they'll just open a piece of music and start singing it perfectly every note. And it's really incredible.
So let's circle back for a second.
You know.
So going back to the training for an opera singer. So you get out of high school, so you enroll in just like an undergraduate degree in music performance.
Right. And I could not read music at the time. Like I hadn't taken music theory prior. I didn't know. I wasn't like someone who would play piano or violin.
So you would hear a piece and then you would just like replicate it by ear. Okay.
And I was in school with a lot of people who had more musical experience in that aspect, where they were either pianists or they grew up with someone who played an instrument or sang. So they had a more, I guess, well-rounded music theory kind of foundation, where I didn't. I was going in completely blind.
Yeah.
And so my first year of college was really hard because it's just all the intense music theory 101 like thrown at you.
Yeah.
And with music, what makes it hard is you can only break it down so much. You need to teach kind of a lot of the layers of it in order to then understand it. So that's what makes it hard to learn at first, I feel like.
You can't just teach like ABCs. It's like, I got to teach you the whole alphabet
it's like,
at the first, before we can even start with A, you have to learn the whole alphabet.
So my piano teacher, when I was an undergrad, is really the one who gave me some methods to learn how to read music and how it all connected, because it's like a puzzle piece that then you put together. So she really helped me with a lot of those tools. And then I had my aha moment kind of thing in school, and I was like, oh my God, I understand all of this. It makes sense. Like, oh yeah, this moves to that, and that moves to this, and then okay. And that's how they, change keys in a piece, and okay, that makes sense.
And you can connect the sounds that you were making to the things you're seeing on the page.
Right, right. More so, yeah. So then I graduated and decided to get my master's degree in it, just because it's a little more of a cushion. That you
but also
have.
You need like more time. You just like need more.
Yeah, and I felt like I needed more schooling. I just had more to learn. I wasn't quite ready to just go out on my own quite yet. And you also have more options in terms of you can now become like an adjunct professor or something.
Well, let me ask you this now, because this is okay. So Broadway theater. There's off-Broadway. But there's off-Broadway. And there's I can go down the street in North Hollywood into a half a dozen different theaters and see a show.
Right.
Are there places where... I don't think of local 137 isn't doing some production of an opera.
Yeah.
So where do you get to kind of cut your teeth and stuff like this?
Luckily in LA, at least, like New York, there are actually a ton of tiny opera companies and orchestras and chamber orchestras and symphonies and quartet, you name it, and choirs and
if you're classically trained, you don't have to be in a full opera. You can be
you can do a concert,
right? Or there could be a
something.
piece where there's it's an orchestra or a quartet with a piece for a soprano. So you're a soloist,
right,
singing a classical piece with a small backing, musicians.
But I mean, and not to be whatever, but is there a place that isn't, say, a big theater or anything? Is there a place I can go tonight and see an opera singer?
No, probably not.
I mean, maybe. The way that we, at least for performers, the way we find gigs, we find out about stuff like that, there's a really cool website called auditionsplus.com, and it'll list, it's for the whole country. It'll list, if you're looking for a church gig, it'll list, who pays and who doesn't. And it'll list if you want to be in an opera or in a concert or in a concert
audition for a chorus or something.
And it'll list who pays, who doesn't.
So is that a lot of work that comes up, being part of a chorus, being part of things like that?
If there is such a thing as your chorus gig where you can then be part of a chorus where you're the section leader, so you basically get all the solos that they do in the services.
For a church or something, or for
a church gig, and you get paid most of the time. It's a paid gig, so you'll rehearse once a week and then go to the service on Sunday or Saturday or whenever They have service, or like for High Holy Days, that's like a whole week or two.
I don't know. Orthodox, we don't have singers in the.
Okay, well, for High Holy Days, that's a huge opportunity.
Thank
for
you,
singers.
Wilshire Boulevard Temple. Well, like one thing about opera singing that people don't realize, and I mentioned it earlier, is that unlike Broadway, opera singers they're off mic. So think of opera singers like pitchers in that they go out and they perform and then they need 4 days rest because it takes a toll.
Right.
And so
we don't do 8 shows a week.
Right. You can't do 7 shows a week and 2 on Sunday.
No way.
So that's why, like Broadway, you can go out and see a little local production where they do like Pasadena Playhouse is doing Wicked, and there's 5 shows in the week.
So if there was like, you wouldn't be able to have, you'd have to have like 4 different people doing each night if you wanted to have it nightly.
Right,
so they do like in Europe, they will do, so like for example, in Prague, I saw the Don Giovanni in the State Theater where it was premiered, and they do a full stage production every night, but they also have 5 rotating casts and like 6 conductors. It's a whole operation that runs through the whole summer. And on any given night, you're going to get whatever arrangement of singers because they structure it so that there's enough people that can just plop into the role, and then they have their schedules. So they could put on a production every night, but they need to have 6 Don Giovannis,
Now, one of the questions I wanted to ask was about the state of opera today in terms of the world, in terms of entertainment and things like that. And is that what you guys were just saying? Is that one of the things that might make opera a tougher sell or tougher to market because, you go and see Josh Gad and Andrew Reynolds every night in Book of Mormon.
Yeah. Right.
And opera, it's like, well, it's a little more sporadic when you could either see the great opera singers or just even going every night.
Right. I think it's not so much that. I think because of the way opera came up in the world and where it did, because it really came up with royalty, so it was for a stuffy, like, wealthy audience. That's who it was for. But I think, obviously, since then, that was 500 years ago, since then, it's become a lot more accessible. But I think people still associate it with a stuffy, rich
So we have these preconceptions about it, that it's going to be this, like... It's not going to...
Yeah. It costs you more to go to a freaking Lakers game than it costs you to go to LA Opera.
I mean, I tell people, I'm like, so you're okay paying $200 to go see Beyonce or Coldplay or U2,
or the
but
Lakers
you're not going to pay $35 to go to the Met, which I've paid for going to the Met.
Or the Lakers versus like the Dallas Mavericks.
Right. I'm like, so you're okay with paying that or paying, $190 to go to Disneyland, but you're not willing to pay $40 to go to the opera or something. You know what I mean?
Well, now here's my next question then. How do we change that? How do we get people more into the idea of going to the opera, or at least trying to?
I think social media helps with that a lot now, because it's just...
The young people.
Well, and it's so accessible and so easy to access millions of people immediately, And so I know LA Opera's trying to do that with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They're really trying to get that going so that people go, oh, hey, this is cool. Like, this is fun. I can go dress up and get a glass of champagne and spend,
or don't go in t-shirt and jeans. Honestly, like everyone feels like these barriers to entry. Like I gotta wear a suit. I gotta wear.
But let me tell you what.
You go in t-shirt. You can go like how you're dressed.
I don't like this. That now, like we go to like people showing up at theaters and flip.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, but if that's the thing that's like keeping you from
I guess it's better that.
But also, like, okay, so there's LA Opera, but there's also like you've performed with Pacific Opera Project,
right?
There's Independent Opera Company. There's Long Beach Opera, USC every year, the graduate school. Who some of these singers go on to phenomenal international careers. Have like $18 to go see a fully staged amazing opera they put on twice a year.
Well, now let me ask this: what are some of the?
You already know what you're gonna ask.
Okay, well, I was gonna build up to this because I was gonna ask about like productions you've been in, things you've done. Then I went to your Facebook page, and there were like a shitload of Klingons on.
Oh yeah. Did you see my profile picture?
Were you in like a Klingon opera?
I was. It was awesome. This is totally a plug for Pacific Opera Project Pop, who I love.
Wait, you went to a...
I saw her perform.
You went to a Star Trek opera? You didn't tell me?
Didn't think you'd want to go.
I love Star Trek.
But it's opera.
You should have come.
I'm not against opera.
And it was in English.
It was in English.
This this is like
we sang. Beam us up, we're out of here. We sang that.
Okay, I'm going to say a couple of things. Now, fuck you, Sean. Because first of all, you're talking about you want to get people into opera. This is your way, and you blew
failed,
it.
Sean, you
blew it.
It's not for you, Will. It's not for you.
This is a lesson, people. A lesson.
Klingon opera. You were singing a song. Did you sing in Klingon?
Yes, there is one guy that sang in Klingon.
Kapla.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so
Explain what this was.
The whole thing is on YouTube. So if you go Pacific Opera Project, The Abduction from the Seraglio, the whole production comes up. We did it twice in LA. We actually did it in February or March of 2015 here at the El Portal.
Yeah.
And what it is Pacific Opera Project is really great. I call them alternative productions, where our director rewrote all the lyrics and all the dialogue, because this opera has dialogue like in musical theater.
And it's originally in German.
And he decided, let's make it accessible and more of a LA thing, because there are a lot of people who are huge Star Trek fans.
I like Star Trek.
Right. And so let's make it about Star Trek, and it totally works for that story. So the main guy is Captain Kirk, and then we had an Orion slave girl who's one of the main singers. And then our wonderful singer, Shawnette, she was the African American character, the one that made out, that made out with Kirk. So that's her character. And then the bad guys are the Klingons.
Because in the original production, the bad guy is the Pasha, the Turkish Sultan who takes the girl to be his lover.
Right.
And it's highly problematic. So by transposing all of this to the Star Trek universe, all of a sudden you take all the racial politics out of it.
I was in the chorus, so I was one of the alien slave girls, and we're all from different galaxies. And then all the men in the chorus were the various Klingons. It was amazing. And the whole orchestra wore the Star Trek uniform and
See, this is how you get people going to the opera. But
right.
You could have walked there too.
What?
So here's the El Portal Linkership.
You know what? This actually. All
right, next time I'm dragging you to something fine.
No, then we did it. We did it in September at the Ford Amphitheater. Actually,
that was only a few months ago.
Yeah. It was really fun. It was so much fun. And one of the bad guys, his first song, he sings half of it in Klingon. Then he's the guy who plays Captain Kirk is activate the universal translator, and then he sings in English. So
that's
he imitates William Shatner, and it's just really over the top. And we even got William Shatner to respond, because they sent him a Twitter hey, come see it, and he was he said he couldn't. He was actually out of town, but he was oh, that's so cool, and so he did know about it.
Well,
which was
Shatner
awesome.
himself is an accomplished singer.
Yeah.
So what before we move on, what are some other either productions you've been involved in that you're really proud of, or stuff you might have coming up?
Well, coming up, I'm actually going to be in a version of Gluck's Orfeo ed Euridice. And it's the Italian version, and I am singing the role of Orfeo.
Oh, you're doing Orfeo?
So Orpheus in the Underworld basically is the story. And that's with Independent Opera Project. The shows are March 17th and 18th. I'm not sure exactly where yet, but if you go on their website, independentoperacompany.com.
In the LA area?
Yeah, in the LA area. It'll either be here in the Valley, in North Hollywood, or in Santa Monica. I think they're still working out the details of the venue.
So there is a lot of small independent opera companies with affordable tickets. You're going to see good productions with good singers, interesting productions. There's LA Opera. There's lots of options.
Go to the opera, people. Support the arts now more than ever.
Yes, LA Opera has tickets that start at $18. It's awesome.
Yes.
Hey, can I ask a question? Opera singers. So opera singers we were talking about Broadway.
Yeah.
Are there rivalries? Are the opera singers?
A Sharks and Jets situation.
Is there a group that the opera singers want to throw down against? And
you know what? It was weird. I remember when I was in graduate school at Cal State LA, there was a weird vibe. It was weird, and it was more with the musical theater people. Not that I'm putting down musical theater people. I think they're awesome, and I love going to see musicals.
They do cute stuff.
I love going to see musicals.
You're
it's
putting
awesome.
them down.
Yeah, I'm just being an
No,
asshole.
but like,
come at me.
they would get really weird with us and wouldn't want to hang out or talk to us, and we thought they were great. We're like, whatever, we didn't.
They were weird with you?
Yeah, they were weird
know
with
what?
the opera singers.
I would rather go out drinking with a bunch of opera singers than a bunch of musical theater kids, because I have drank with a bunch of musical theater kids.
Opera singers are fun.
And it just evolves into people like
No, you know what it's like when you drink
songs from Wicked and...
Here's what happens when you drink with a bunch of opera singers. Someone finds a piano and they start singing like songs in German and Russian and French and Italian.
Sometimes you just drink.
Yeah. I don't know. I've heard a lot of Lieder. And then sometimes someone brings out a laptop and then the party devolves into everyone sitting around the computer watching YouTube clips of like famous opera singers of the
Oh,
60s.
I don't know what parties you go to.
You're not selling me
I've
on
had
this.
it with Serena and Seychelles. It always ends up with like
No,
YouTube.
these are not the opera parties I go to.
I want them like...
At these ones, there's like shots and pizza and a lot of beer.
I like that. When they're drinking, do people like... Oh my God, I don't know if this is like a stupid question, but do people like singing like they can break glass? You ever see someone do that? Can you do that?
No, I've never actually witnessed anyone do that. I know it's possible, and it has to be at a certain frequency.
The
and
Mariah
the glass
chord.
has to be like a certain, like there has to be a certain like volume.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's really specific, and you actually don't have to sing really high. It's just at a certain.
It's gonna be a laser
pitch.
beam, yeah.
Yeah, it's really strange, but I've never actually seen anyone do it.
It's like the karate dude that can break a bunch of bricks. It's not so much going to be strong; it's got to be precise.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really cool to see that, but I've never actually witnessed anyone.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to sing a note that breaks this glass table. But I guess...
But then you'd be pissed off when we leave.
I'd be pissed off. Now I have no table.
But I'd have to sing like above it, so you'd have to like get me a harness and like I'd have to.
Should we have to like
over
Siren
it.
from the X-Men?
Yeah,
Or Banshee. Sorry, Banshee.
Yeah, I'd have to do that.
Do people because you're an opera singer, people like put you on the spot? And
Constantly. And there was a really good article on Facebook that had like the top 10 questions not to ask opera singers.
Oh, no.
And I think that was number 1 because frankly, and I was told this by a really amazing dance teacher actually that I had. She's like, when people ask you to do that, she's like, it's totally up to you. If you're comfortable doing it, you want to do it, fine. But she's like, in reality, if you're a professional at whatever kind of performance you do, she's like, it really should be in a performance plate, like when you're ready to perform, because
So
then
like
you're
at your best.
Right. She goes, especially like for opera singing, where you need to warm up for so long, depending on your own body, and you need to be in that space.
You gotta sing with marbles in your mouth.
Yeah, and it's like if I've been like hanging out at a party and I'm eating like chips and
Pizza
guacamole and pizza and like drinking beers and stuff, I'm not gonna want to bust out into an aria. Like, maybe if it's like a group of us singing together and we're goofing around, but yeah, it's just uncomfortable.
Well,
really.
scratch my final question.
Sing.
No.
Oh, where'd my Band-Aid go?
Okay, so where can the people find out more about you? Or is there a place that you post all your information?
I've been I have to update it actually, but on SoundCloud, I have a page, and you just type in my name.
Which is Jessica Gonzalez-Rodriguez.
Right, with a hyphen. And so you just type in my name, and I usually post recordings from my auditions on there, because a lot of times companies like to listen to pre-recorded stuff. So, and it's just for fun too, for people to listen if they want.
And like do you like on Facebook post like when you're going to be doing performances?
I do. My page is actually private. It's so you have to friend me, but I do post a lot, but I am hopefully sometime soon within the next couple months gonna launch a website, because it's time to do that.
Well, when you do, let us know so we can put it up on our Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely.
And are you on Twitter at all?
I am not on Twitter, actually.
You're making it very difficult for me to promote this episode.
I know. I'm not.
But just
on
let us know when you
Twitter.
have stuff, and we'll make sure that we promote
Yes,
it. Through
please
ours.
do.
I will.
And you know what? If you're ever doing anything, I'll come check it out. But if you're ever doing a Star Trek one, obviously,
if we revive it, because
tell
people
me
love
because
it.
this guy's not gonna. So tell me.
Well, it's likely because we've already done it twice within 1 year.
People love it.
And the director who Josh Shaw, who created the whole story and rewrote all the lyrics and everything, he has been commissioned all over the country doing it with all these different companies. So he did it last year. He must have done, I think, 5 or 6 productions of it. I mean, because they love it. They know it's going to sell tickets, and it's going to be fun for people to go see in terms of the whole family, and just fun and cool and different and more relatable.
But if you want to see it in the original German on the stage of the LA Opera, the Abduction of the Seraglio will be the next opera.
They're doing it in the 1930s on
a Murder in the Orient Express.
Oh, I like Murder on the Orient Express.
So maybe we should go to the opera.
I'll go to the opera.
All right.
Nobody ever invites me.
I invited you once. You were busy.
Oh, jeez.
Unless I tried. I'm out.
He's like, I give up the one time.
Okay.
All right, fine. Go to Dummerang. Let's go.
Oh, my God, no.
So, moving on to our topics this week.
All right, yes.
The young Pope.
Yes.
The
young naked Pope.
Let's talk a little about the young Pope. The young Pope does not eat breakfast. The young Pope smokes cigarettes and drinks Cherry Coke Zero.
Cherry Coke Zero. That's right, yeah.
The young Pope has a pet kangaroo. The young Pope...
That's fucking crazy.
The young Pope in one episode, compared himself to Salinger, Kubrick, Banksy, and Daft Punk all in one.
That's quite a...
The young Pope does not care for our liberal mores, and...
I don't know.
The young Pope
my God.
Is the new show from Paolo Sorrentino on HBO. And I love this show so much. 2 episodes have aired. By the time this is up, a third will have aired. But it is so batshit
You're bearing
crazy.
the lead. What is the name of the young Pope?
The name of the young Pope... Well, his Pope name?
No, his New York name.
Yeah, man.
Oh, he's Lenny.
Lenny Bernardo from Brooklyn.
Lenny Bernardo. He's a young American Pope. And he's Pope Pius the 13th.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a Pope named Lenny? I mean, come on.
Lenny the Pope. And whenever they call him Lenny...
Well, when Diane
that
Keane's
sounds like a mafia lord, right?
Yeah.
Lenny the Pope's coming, man.
Yeah. Sean, I love the show. Let's briefly talk about the show, and then we'll talk about the other thing about the show. This show is batshit crazy. It is...
Well, it starts with a dream sequence within a dream sequence just to get the ball rolling.
Okay, now I have to watch it because Jude Law's hot too.
Yeah. Well, which is so one of the things that the young Pope decides to do is that he feels that the church has become too relatable to people, and that he needs to re-inject. There needs to be mystery and distance from the church. And so, what's interesting is that with the idea of the young Pope,
all know what happens when the
well, you
church
could have
does
seen
that.
him be like the liberal, young, like motorcycle riding Pope, but no. This Pope is deeply troubled, is extremely conservative, wants to root out all signs of liberalism from the church, and believes that we need to re-embrace God into our hearts, and that the church has sunk into this pit of sin. So when he does his first papal address, he refuses to be seen. He's shrouded in shadow, and he refuses to let his
that's
image...
not creepy.
Well, yeah, he refuses to allow his youthful, beautiful Jude Lawian image to be used on any merchandising.
He's the most telegenic Pope in history, and he will not let himself be seen. Also, yes. No, this, I've lost my track.
But the show also, Paolo Sorrentino, who directed The Great Beauty.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get
Youth, Devo.
He's a great Italian filmmaker.
And he's an extreme stylist. And the show has these weird little... So, for example, you will see nuns in slow motion playing soccer, and you notice that one nun is missing a hand.
Well, he also... What I loved about Youth, for example... Yeah. They're all, and Sorrentino's great at doing, there are all these side characters.
Yes.
And there are all these amazing faces that the camera, that he just lingers his camera on, that it's just and I don't want to say the faces are grotesque, but I mean, some of them aren't, that, but he just hangs on them, and he did this in Youth, and he's doing this with the Great Beauty. And it's gorgeously absurd. Yeah. Now, this show also, I think, is very funny. And I think there was a debate on the Slate Culture Gab Fest where Stephen Metcalf was not sure if it was meant to be funny, but it's clearly meant to be funny. I don't know where he was lost, or am I wrong on this?
No, what's interesting is that Sorrentino's Italian, so his relationship with the papacy and the church as a native Italian is probably very different than how we experience it. And so he has, I'm sure he has deep thoughts about this.
It's interesting though that he chooses to do it through like an American Pope.
Yeah.
But you also find the show deeply upsetting.
It is. I mean, he's so unlikable.
Well, that's the thing. You're a little ahead of me.
Yeah.
On the show.
It's upsetting because the show keeps you on edge at all times. And with the main character, with Pope Lenny, you never know if he's being deliberate, if he's being cunning, if he's making it up as he goes along, if he's acting out of a long-term strategy, out of like short-term neuroses and just lashing out. And it's the show, because he's such a hinge and such a strong character, everything is in reaction to what he's doing.
I remember what you said. I remember what I was going to say, that the Pope, I don't even know if this Pope really believes in God or not.
Well, how old was he when he became Pope?
He was like 47.
47.
Oh, yeah, that is young.
That's a young Pope.
A young Pope.
Yeah, this is a young Pope.
The young one.
Now,
sexy.
Here's the other thing. This is more than any other show I've ever watched, I feel like real art house television. Yeah. And yet the people seem to love the young Pope. The people are all about the young Pope.
Yeah.
And it's because it is the most gifable show. There are so many memes about the young Pope.
Oh my God, those memes.
You were enjoying. You don't even watch the show yet, and you weren't enjoying the memes.
No, and now I want to watch the show because I'm like, this is so ridiculous and hilarious and weird that I want to watch the show. Especially Jude Law, who I always picture more as like the he always plays like the sensitive guy,
except for he's
like
Dickie Greenleaf.
Yeah, but he I can't picture him playing something like a pope.
Yeah.
Like that grandiose, you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see him play a character like that.
The opening credits are him walking through a hallway of portraits, and it's tracking with him. Right. So he's like a perpendicular to him. Okay. And it's playing Sympathy for the Devil as he smokes a cigarette and walks through a hall of paintings.
That's pretty badass, I gotta say right there. Like that's an image.
Now, so one of the geniuses...
Wait, there's an opening credit sequence?
Oh, it doesn't show up till episode 3.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. It's weird. It's sideswiped. You're like, where did this come from?
Okay.
Because the first 2 episodes are meant to be like, there's an opening credit sequence you'll see in episode 3. It's phenomenal. Okay. You feel like Sorrentino went into a meeting with He won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film for Great Beauty. He did Youth, and he went into HBO and was like, I got 2 words for you. Young Pope. Like, here, take all the money.
Well, but it's weird because this show, because here's the thing, like,
well, the memes, it's such a strong concept, it's such a striking concept that that's what fuels the memes.
But are the people who are putting out these memes and watching the show enjoying it in the same way that you and I are?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I wonder if they're even watching the show.
Yeah.
Actually, if they're just making.
What was it? He's just a young pope from a young papacy.
Yeah, well, explain the memes. We're not explaining them.
So some of them are like rejiggered song lyrics.
Like they did a Guns N' Roses one too, and
Take Me Down to the Vatican City where the Pope is young and I can't remember.
But then there are also photos of from the press photos of Jude Law. There was just something about the idea of young Pope and Jude Law that struck a chord in the imagination.
He's laying down on a beach chair with a cigarette and a sun hat. Like it's in the Pope costume. Yeah. And it's hilarious.
That's the other thing what this show does so well is it completely leans into the ridiculous, campy, hysterical aspects of Vatican fashion and church. Now, you're Catholic, right?
I was.
You're raised Catholic. You were raised Catholic.
We were both raised Catholic.
Raised Catholic, yeah.
And there are some. I mean,
it's weird.
Feel free to knock me down, and the show gets into this, but in many ways, I feel like the Catholic Church, in its most pure form, was a place for religious, closeted gay men to go to be fabulous. Does that make sense?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not saying all priests are gay, but
I wouldn't.
This becomes a major theme in the show because Pope Lenny is very against homosexuality.
Well, I've already seen in one episode where someone admits to being homosexual to him, and he gets very.
But this becomes a whole
could be very likely.
But I mean, the costumes and the outfits and the pageantry of Catholicism is so over the top.
Well, have you been to the Vatican before?
Twice.
Yeah. Well, it's weird when you're there because you really see the separation of men and women in that society. You'll see the cardinals or whoever it is getting out of these really fancy cars and stuff. They park, and then you see I'm on the bus with the nuns. You know what I mean? It's just you're like, well, why don't they get a fancy car? They go to the Vatican. What the hell, And it's just, you really see the difference there. And it is like, it's really beautiful and amazing, but it's also kind of creepy. Yeah. And you get this energy that they're hiding a lot, which
Where are they now?
But it's just this interesting feeling that you get when you're there. It's not like, oh, I feel so holy, and it's like
what's going on behind?
It's like, wow, this artwork is amazing. Like, you're like, oh my god.
But what's through that door?
Yeah. Well, what's through that hallway? How come I can't go down there? Why is that closed off? Yeah. Like, a lot of stuff like that.
You know,
it's weird.
Where's the kangaroo?
When all the memes were happening, when they were starting, and they were starting to take over Twitter and Facebook, all these young Pope memes, I actually started to get a little, like, annoyed, because I'm like, is anyone going, because I wanted to earnestly watch the show. It's a filmmaker I like, it's an actor I like, I wanted to see, like, a story that takes place in the Vatican, and now, it's funny, now that I've watched the show, I've totally jumped in on the memes, because although I always knew there'd be some level of absurdity because Sorrentino's like a Fellini-esque kind of guy. It really is an extreme level of absurd. I mean,
just
the kangaroo thing's absurd.
The ending of episode 4.
It's like Salvador Dali, like how he had that armadillo. It's like just random weirdness.
No. I gotta talk about. I don't want to say that, but the end credit sequence of episode 4 is just like pure Sorrentino. Like,
who are the co-stars in the show?
Diane Keaton's on it.
Ooh.
She plays Sister Mary, who raised the young Lenny. Lenny was an orphan who was raised by the church in New York and entered the priesthood.
Well, that explains why he's weird.
Diane Keaton
and James Cromwell's on it.
Oh, okay, there's some.
Yeah, it's a hard.
And then like a bunch of Italian people I don't really know.
like well-known Italian actors and the main awesome. the main like Anglo stars are those.
Yeah,
three.
I had no idea Diane Keaton was in it.
She's in it a lot, awesome. And she's like the only person that Pope Lenny listens to.
Okay,
because she's basically his mother figure.
Yeah, I definitely have to watch it. I have to TiVo it on HBO.
I tried to listen to a Young Pope podcast, but they were like 5 episodes in, and they kept slipping and saying stuff that had happened, and I turned them off. So fuck that podcast.
Who was that on?
It was the AV Club.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of ruins it if you're behind or you haven't watched it.
I just wanted to listen to it.
Well, because the critics were all given 5 episodes to watch, so.
Okay, well, it's the Young Pope, and you should watch it.
Because he's the Pope, and he's a young guy.
And Jude Law's naked a lot.
I mean, look, in the first episode, you see his ass.
Hey, I'm not complaining.
If you're going for Jude Law, Dick, you're gonna be disappointed. But if you're going for some young papal shenanigans, and who else is in it? A famous French actress who I'm blanking on. Right now.
From Swimming Pool.
Yes, Ludivine Seignier.
Yeah,
okay. It's in it as well.
Yeah, everybody knows her.
Just good stuff.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you a question here, Jessica.
Sure.
As a performer,
go for it.
Do you like the circus? Do you like circus performers?
I like Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, you like the pretentious circus.
I do. The Vegas circus,
Okay, so Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus is closing after 146 years due to low attendance.
Yep.
So my first question, before we get into the reasons why they close, are if we like the circus. And as a kid, whenever the circus would come to Nassau Coliseum every year, my father would bring me, and I loved the circus. Yeah. I thought it was great. I like the whole 3-ring thing. I'm watching everything going on. I like we're getting into things that are not PC, I guess, but I like the elephants, and I loved and there was the lion tamer and all this stuff. Right. And it was like, and the clowns were funny. I thought the
trapeze artists.
They were all amazing. They'd always do a thing. Now they'll do this one stunt without a net. And the net would drop, and you'd be like, fuck. Yeah. When I was little, my father got me into the circus. My friends, me and my cousins were at the circus, and my father, it's the only time I remember my father doing something like this. Or at least the only time I saw it, he bribed an usher. And they put us on in the middle of the circus. I guess there was a halftime of the circus. There was this parade that goes around.
Yeah, they would parade all the animals and stuff.
And they put us in a little
kids on the thing.
They put a little car and they drove us around.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
But it was also, I always remember there'd be the weird thing and see a unicorn. It was some poor fucking goat with a misshapen horn or something.
It was the most
with
ghetto,
a sagging paper mache horn.
Ghetto, janky unicorn.
But I loved it, and I got to admit, I'm a little, and I know the circus we're not supposed to like the circus because of the way
animal
they treat
cruelty.
animals.
Because we're 21st century people.
Yeah, because we're 21st century,
Right.
but I kind of love the circus, and it upsets me that, God willing, I finally have kids one day. I can never bring them to this circus.
So I went.
Well, not that circus,
I went
right?
2
Yeah,
But
years.
I'm never going to be able to bring them.
Well, like the legit circus.
With,
the old
like-
No, they're gonna
school
get to see
circus.
underwater with Q and Z.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, there's something to be said,
To the music of Rod Stewart.
But there's something to be said that we need a place where, we can go bring people to see, carnies.
Stupid,
I know, carny culture is gonna be gone. That's so sad.
But it's also those clowns are different than the Cirque du Soleil clowns.
Completely different.
Those acrobats are different.
It's a whole,
No, they
whole
went to
other ball
clown
game.
college. They weren't part of the Latvian gymnastics team.
I know,
Right.
and I want the clown college clowns.
Right, they weren't in the Olympics.
So I went with my family and my
2004.
nieces and nephew to Ringling Brothers about 2 years ago when they were here at the Staples Center.
Oh, nice.
Probably the last time they were in LA. I hadn't been to the circus since I was a child. We used to go to the Great Western Forum.
The only time I went, I think I was 4 years old.
Yeah. And I remember liking it as a child. I fucking loved it. It was delightful. It was entertaining as hell. I was still, having seen a couple Cirque du Soleil shows, I was still amazed by what they were doing. I thought the tiger in the cage with the dude in the whip was like, that guy's going to get killed, but no.
Right, his face is going to get eaten off.
The elephants looked very sad and very haggard, and their skin was not the right shade of gray. But I assume, these are old elephants. I don't know. I was very conflicted. There were protesters.
Yeah.
We had to cross a picket line to get into the circus.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It became a conflicting thing.
Once I was in there, I was I was Gooble Gobble, one of them. You know?
You don't want them to ruin the animals because that's part of the fun of seeing the animals and how beautiful they are.
But even if you had taken all the animals out of the act and just left the clowns and the acrobatics and the center attractions and all the nonsense, it was still an amazing, fun show. And it was it had that old-fashioned quality that I remember from commercials in the 80s with the sand floor and the 3 rings. Exactly. Cirque du Soleil is slick and modern.
For me, I always think of Dumbo. You know?
Exactly.
That's what you're like, oh, it's Dumbo.
I think it's a carny culture. There's this whole notion. It goes back to these fantasies of the Depression, where the circus will roll into town. If you lived in Bumblefuck, Iowa, the circus shows up.
And the Dust Bowl, Oklahoma, they would come and cheer you up for a week. Or
and this was the most
whatever,
exciting thing to happen for
You ever see The Greatest Show on Earth?
I don't know.
That movie's great.
I see. It's considered one of the worst Best Picture winners, but I actually...
Is it 3 hours long?
It's with Betty Hutton. She plays a trapeze artist.
Yeah, and Jimmy Stewart plays a clown who's hiding out.
From the low.
Because he killed a man in the war.
Well, kind of.
But it's really great when
it's a fun movie.
It's a really
the
fun
movie
movie.
gets a bad rap because it shouldn't have won Best Picture, but it's a fun
Who did
movie.
it beat up? Because it was 1951
I
or something
can't.
like that, right?
52, but I can't remember what it beat.
Because 51 was what Singing in the Rain, but 52 was what?
No, I think 52 Singing in the Rain, but Singing in the Rain didn't even get nominated for Best Picture.
Oh.
And I just saw Singing in the Rain on the big screen last night.
Oh, how was it?
Nice.
It was great. I'd never seen it on the big screen. And let me tell you what, the women in the audience, oh man, were they getting wet over Gene Kelly. That was a handsome motherfucker.
He was handsome. And he said...
Charlton Heston was in it too.
Well, and he said in interviews that he would particularly wear tight clothing to show off his muscular dancer body. So that's why he would wear those tight shirts and pants, really fitted pants.
You could tell though he knew. He was the most vain person. Sean, we've given you plenty of time to find out the other Best Picture nominees.
I'm working on it.
1952. It's like Ivanhoe or something.
Probably, yeah. Ivanhoe with...
You guys keep talking about the circus.
Okay, but the circus...
With Elizabeth Taylor.
But here's the thing. Okay. It's bad if they're... I don't think were they abusing elephants? I mean, okay, here's the fine line. Where does something become abuse and where does something become we've trained something to do something?
Well, I don't know if they particularly abused the animals. I think it was more the conditions that they had them living in.
Well, because they got to put them on a fucking truck and drive them to the next town.
Well, before it would be in the Greatest Show on the train in those cages, really small, confined spaces. These are giant animals that are used to having a lot of space to roam
It's like
about.
the Shamu thing. It's like the orca whale
so I think it was more that, just their everyday lifestyle and the way they were kept, and that's why maybe the elephants looked haggard or whatever,
So do you like the Cirque du Soleil shows?
I do like the Cirque du Soleil shows.
I've been to 2.
I've been to maybe 4.
I went to the Beatles one, and
I went to the Beatles one. Which Beatles one was really fantastic.
I feel like I would like that one just for
ready?
the music. Okay.
Yeah.
Greatest Show on Earth.
Okay.
High Noon.
Better movie.
Ivanhoe.
I knew
Moulin Rouge, and what I consider the best movie of that year, The Quiet Man.
Okay.
And
John Wayne.
John Ford beat out Cecil B. DeMille for Best Actor. Gary Cooper
won director,
for Best Director. Best Actor was Gary Cooper. And Best Actress,
amazing.
Shirley Booth for Comeback Little Sheba, beating out Joan Crawford for Southern Fear, Betty Davis
Joan
for Star,
Crawford is probably angry.
Julie Harris, The Member of the Wedding, and Susan Hayward with A Song in My Heart. Gonna say, not the strongest year for actresses.
No, it wasn't a strong year, but Crawford and Davis were nominated against each other.
Yeah, but for The Star and Southern Fear, 2 movies I've never seen.
Joan Crawford was pissed, too.
And last thing, Best Actor, Gary Cooper beat out Marlon Brando for Viva Zapata, Kirk Douglas for The Bad and the Beautiful.
Ooh.
Moulin Rouge for Moulin Rouge. That's got to be a typo.
That's a typo.
And
Jose Ferrer was
Jose Ferrer.
Jose
I was
Ferrer
like, yeah.
was in Moulin.
And Alec Guinness for The Lavender Hill Mob.
Lavender Hill Mob's great. But you know what? I give it to Cooper for High Noon.
I
do
love
too.
Bad and Beautiful.
That movie is, oh my God.
I love Bad and Beautiful.
That performance is the shit.
Okay, now that we've geeked out about movies from 1952, one question. Let me ask you this. You said when you went there were protesters. Yeah. Okay, I'm a big zoo person.
Yeah.
And I think the zoo is trying to. I think the zoo treats animals very well, and it's trying to. It's about conservation. It's about like I know the elephants at the LA Zoo, for example, will work elephants in Thailand, and they're here like they're basically retired here in Los Angeles.
They're getting tans.
They're getting their peanut
life.
pension.
I'm willing to say they have a better life here than they did when they were work elephants in Thailand.
Oh yeah.
So now here's my question. Are we going to get to a point, and I'm not saying protesters against the zoo are wrong, because I understand their point. I just like the zoo, the circus. But are we going to get to a point where it's going to be like, oh, we can't have zoos anymore? Because that, to me, is hitting a level of we've got.
I know
ridiculous.
there are already people that are saying that, that are like, oh, they're confined and they're, being oppressed and they're not in their natural environment and their spaces are too small and they're too close together or whatever it is. So, but I mean, that problem can kind of easily be solved. I feel like they can always expand.
Well, the LA Zoo has done a great job expanding.
So zoos do much more than just showing off. Showing off the animals, I always feel like is the...
Or do like a wild animal park kind of thing.
I always feel like showing off the animals like the tertiary role of zoos, that they also do conservation and research, education.
Well, I'll tell you what,
and many of these animals are bred in captivity, and you have to go put them in the wild; they're going to die in 5 seconds.
Exactly. You can't. I think people don't understand that. And I think people also
too.
don't understand that a lot of animals in zoos are like those work elephants. They're animals that have maybe been hurt. They're animals that maybe cannot be in the wild for certain reasons.
Yeah.
At this point, would probably be dead if they were somewhere else. Also, I wouldn't have an appreciation for the animals
a Bengal
or nature
tiger or whatever.
If, when I was a kid, I didn't get exposed to this stuff.
Right,
so
because growing up
Siegfried stuff.
Well, growing up in Long Island or LA, you're not going to be around these wild any wild animals.
It's
really,
right. I had to go to the Bronx Zoo.
Right. I would go to the LA Zoo. It's like okay, or the San Diego Wild Animal Park, either or. But I think with the circus, from what I remember, my mom and we went with one of my mom's best friends and her kids to the circus, and this was when I was 4. And my mom and her friend remember how expensive it was. That was the thing. She's like, it was so expensive. She's like, everything was. She goes, remember we bought you guys slushies and the souvenir glass, and that was expensive, and the tickets. She goes, and then all the the concessions.
No more zoo.
Yeah, she's like, that was probably the part where they were kind of disappointed at how overpriced it was. So maybe that's why, too, they're going out of business. I don't know.
Well,
but I'm thinking, Cirque du Soleil isn't exactly cheap either.
No, and I wouldn't want to bring a kid to Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
I'd want to bring kid to see wacky clown pull down the other clown's pants.
You don't want them to have a sexual awakening.
Spray him in the face with
water,
too young.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay. Well, when you're at the circus or Cirque du Soleil, you should watch it. You shouldn't check your phone.
I agree.
And here's the thing. Apple, that glorious fucking company Apple, is finding new ways to piss me off. Rumor has, or maybe it's not even rumor anymore at this point, that the latest update, an update, by the way, no one has asked for, will contain something called theater mode, which it will disable system sounds and it will block calls, but it will enable the like to reduce the screen brightness during things like a movie. So in theory, you could text or tweet during the movie because the screen will be darker. You know, there's already something called theater mode, and it's called the fucking off button. What are you doing, Apple? You're just encouraging rude behavior. Movie theaters already have become a landmine dealing with this bullshit, and now you're telling people, it's okay, tweet. Go tweet in the movie theater. First of all, you know these assholes aren't going to know how to use the theater mode. You know it's going to be like 20 minutes of their bright phone, like, how do I get this to work? And secondly, there will still be a level of light. So if some prick is sitting next to me, directly next to me, and you know they'll be using it, I'm going to be distracted. I paid $13 to see this fucking movie.
Sometimes 20.
And here's the thing. Now, when I tell this dickhead to stop using his phone, he's going to be like, well, Apple told me I could. It's theater mode, bro. Who are these people anyway? Who are the people who go, let me go see Rogue One and just text the entire movie? Turn off your, what are you the president of the United States? Are you going to get an important phone call?
Yeah,
no, you're not. You spent your hard-earned money to watch a movie. Watch the fucking movie. That's why you, Apple Theater Mode, or this week's Enemy of the Podcast, go fuck yourself. I honestly believe this was invented to give me an aneurysm.
Well, I think, too, before I know theaters were paranoid about people having their phones on or out, even, because they were afraid of people filming the movie, right. And then with the copyright laws, illegally posting it somewhere, showing it.
But that's out of the box.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, apparently they don't care about that anymore. I'm like, so...
You know what? If I had a theater,
Snipers.
Maybe.
Drones.
With paintballs.
Drones.
Yeah, and anyone who pulls out their phone, they get shot with a paintball.
Glow-in-the-dark paintball, so everyone can see.
No, but you know what? Maybe I would make everyone put their phones in those locked bags.
Yes.
Right. But I mean, I totally agree. If you're going to spend to see Rogue One in 3D, it was $20.
Well, that was your first mistake.
Well,
in 3D.
Well, it was, I enjoyed it. But I mean, you're paying between, like you said, 13 and $20.
Those are circus slushy prices.
I know, those damn circus slushies. And you're paying this money, however much money, to go see a movie that you obviously have chosen and want to enjoy. Why are you going to be texting the whole time? That's one of my pet peeves. I'm like, then go out of the theater or just don't come to the freaking movie.
Well, now let me ask you this, because this is also going to be in other theaters.
Yeah.
So when have you ever been performing and noticed, like...
I will walk out in the audience and slap it out of that person's hand.
Oh, that's good.
Opera audiences are usually okay. They'll do this thing, LA Opera does this, for the final dress rehearsal, which is free tickets, so you're not paying. And it's still considered like a rehearsal.
And it's invited guests.
Yeah, so no one's paying to be there. It's invited guests.
Yeah, where they will. Retta.
So as part of the marketing, they'll have tweet seats where there'll be people who will be tweeting during the performance. But that's fine. But I don't think I've ever seen anyone on their phone during a performance. Maybe they'll quickly check the time.
I've only ever heard maybe someone's phone go off
because everyone's idiots,
and then they turn it off. But I've never seen anyone like whip it out and be like posting.
I don't even understand why people check the time during the movie. Because guess what?
You know how long the movie is.
You got nowhere else to be. The movie's just going to end.
No, but sometimes if the movie's slow, I'll be like, how much longer is there left to this? That's why I check the time sometimes.
This wasn't directed at you.
I know.
Well, let me play a devil's advocate here. And I disagree with this, but let me play devil's advocate.
All right.
People are going to text and tweet anyway because people are fucking assholes.
Yes.
Is it better that Apple has come up with something that will, in theory, make it less distracting? Like maybe I won't notice when they do it now.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like in a way, yes, but in a way, no, because it's then promoting people, like saying, oh, it's okay for you to do this. No problem. Like we've even created a whole mode for this. Like,
yeah,
this
see, that's
great.
Like, it's encouraging bad behavior.
Right. And to me, instead, I would say, no, you have airplane mode or you have, other mode, like, what is it, the do not disturb mode or no, you whatever.
I mean, I always have my phone on vibrate anyway, but you can turn the screen brightness all the way down, or you can do the thing where you invert the black and the white, So that actually gives off very little light because the majority of the background is all black.
Well,
and
who's doing that? Is that what theater mode is?
No, but that's a mode you can turn your phone on, which will invert the colors.
I never heard of this mode.
I know. I'm like,
you can invert it so it actually makes it gives off very little light.
Are you texting during a movie? Are you going to text
The only
during a
time
movie?
I will ever text during a movie is if it's like there's like 3 people in the theater and there's no one around me. Like I don't do it in a crowded theater, but sometimes you go and there's like 2 people in front of you and 1 dude over there.
See, I always turn off my phone.
Famously on this, I always turn off my phone.
Like completely. I'm like, I came here to watch a movie. If you want to call me, or
if I'm alone in the theater, I'm like making phone calls.
Well, famously
later.
on this podcast, I once talked about how I was the only one in the theater, a huge theater. I was the only one to see the movie Dread, which was very good. And I was sitting there, and I was like, "Yeah, it's the first time ever I was alone in the theater." And you said, Sean, like, and so what? What did you do? You sat there well behaved and sat there and quietly watched the movie. And I'm like, yeah, it never occurred to me once to even check my phone.
Oh, when I was the only guy in Neon Demon, I was like spread out on the seats. I had my phone up. I got comfy.
Oh, you didn't go to the Cinespia screening of that?
No, I saw it over at the ArcLight.
Oh, okay.
Like a sucker. I was also the only one to go see Yoga Hosers too.
I just recently watched Yoga Hosers.
What'd you think?
I don't love it like you love it.
I don't love it, but I think people need to calm the fuck down with that movie.
It's just a stupid, silly little movie.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
But if you didn't know Kevin Smith had directed it, would you have had the same like strong feelings?
No, I probably would like it less. I'd probably less forgiving. If I didn't know, I'm probably more forgiving of it because I like Kevin Smith and
You don't like all the Canadian humor? I just love the relationship between the 2 girls. I thought that was like great. It was like very sweet and felt very honest.
that I would agree with because they're best friends in real life.
Yes.
And
Ralph Garman is
and you mentioned the Neon Demon,
yes,
which is a movie that with further distance I always like more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe you and I are the only 2 people in the world who like the Neon Demon.
I have not seen it.
It's worth seeing. It's a weird fucking movie. It's peak Elle Fanning.
Well, speaking Elle Fanning had a big year.
Yes.
Speaking of weird, we always end on weird news, except sometimes it's fast food news. And here we go.
Okay.
Taco Bell is unleashing a wild new weapon in the fast food fried chicken wars.
Oh, God.
It's the long-awaited naked chicken chalupa.
That sounds like a dirty sex position.
Well, starting January 26th, you could have this dirty sex position anytime you want.
I don't eat a Taco Bell. It's an insult to my people.
We'll discuss that in a second. This new menu item is a fried chicken shell. It's made of white meat chicken and
diarrhea.
And filled with shredded lettuce,
diarrhea,
diced tomatoes, cheddar cheese, and avocado ranch sauce. I'm not big on avocado.
Indigestion.
One of the people who has tried it already said it was a little salty initially.
Well,
since you bite into the fried chicken first, but balances out once you hit the filling.
It's not fucking Wolfgang Puck. Like, what the hell? It's
the chicken shell has a substantial crunch as well as a solid kick of spicy heat. Much more so than any other current Taco Bell meat option. Gentlemen, ladies, this is why Taco Bell in the movie Demolition Man won the fast food wars. Their food scientists are unprecedented what they come up with.
It's so gross.
Okay, here's the thing. You said it's a affront to your people.
It's just gross.
Here's the thing. If I would never, when people are like, people say to me all the time, like, why would you eat Taco Bell when, like, there's so many great taco places or great Mexican food or things like that? And my argument is, when I want Mexican food, I eat Mexican food. When I want Taco Bell, I eat Taco Bell. I consider it a whole totally different thing.
Yeah. No, I get that. But it's, for me, it's just their food is just gross.
There are only 2 fast food places I eat at with any consistency. I guess it depends what you consider levels of fast food, but what I consider like the drive-through kind of fast food,
right,
In-N-Out, and Taco Bell.
See, In-N-Out's the only one I do,
and I love taco. I don't eat a Burger King, McDonald's.
That's because they probably put shit in there to like make you addicted to it or something.
It is Taco Bell.
Some kind of additive.
Will's dream is to have a Taco Bell executive to be on the show.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I would love to have a Taco Bell. Taco Bell is fucking great. It makes my single favorite fast food product all time and it only comes out maybe once a year, the Beefy Crunch Burrito, which is the burrito with the spicy Fritos in it.
Oh my God.
It is so good.
It's really, it's from Oaxaca province. It's very traditional.
I like the quesaritos.
Well, traditional.
So traditional.
You grew up. You remember how your mom used to make quesaritos?
She made them all the time. It was amazing.
And she made chalupas.
Oh God, I remember they used to serve chalupas because I went to LAUSD schools, and their food is shitty. And one of the things they would make was chalupas, and I just remember that the corn tortilla hard shell being like kind of stretchy and
like
bendable.
It's supposed to be.
Like stretchy though. I'm like, what is this made of? Because it kind of is bendable and flexible. And then we would call it dog meat because we weren't sure what kind of meat it was. It was just ground meat product of some kind, and it was disgusting.
I'm surprised Taco Bell hasn't come out with a product just straight up called the chupacabra.
Oh, they're working on it, but they want it to be
made out of goat meat.
They're like, man, how do we market that?
The goat killer.
I love I make it a point to try whatever. Here's the thing also, advertising I feel doesn't work on me a lot in terms of I'll see some new product or new thing and I'll be like, that looks interesting, but I'll never do that. The only place it does is Taco Bell. There's commercial and they've got more beef in this one. They got the steak burrito.
No, when they're
thing.
drizzling the gross Velveeta cheese on it, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Whenever Taco Bell, I try all new Taco Bell products. But my usual
was a pioneer.
But my usual go-to is I'll just get a beef quesarito and a cheesy gordita crunch, which are delicious.
And on that note,
no, don't do it.
Jessica, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was fun. I had a great time. You got to come to the opera.
And you got to come to Taco Bell.
No, I'll go to In-N-Out with you, but not Taco Bell.
All right, we found some
common ground. Okay.
Tell us where we can go see the upcoming, or not where, but when the upcoming Orfeo.
That's March 17th and 18th. I know it's St. Patrick's Day, but you can come support us. And I'm also doing a production of Carmen with Redlands Opera Theater. That's in May. That's May 12th and 13th and 20th and 21st. So if you live out
what did you with Redlands last year?
County? Last year
Skeeky?
I did Johnny Skeeky,
okay.
and then the year before that I did Faust with them.
Okay.
So
for all our fans in San Bernardino County, or if you just want to make a lovely day trip out there.
Yeah, Redlands is really cute, actually.
Yeah. It's a red land.
Redlands.
Sean.
You can find me on all forms of social media at the Sean David. I've been poking my toe back into Twitter. I updated my name.
Oh, have you?
You haven't noticed I changed my handle?
No, I haven't noticed. Because did you tweet anything?
Nah.
So how would I have noticed?
You check every day.
And by the way, last week some people were tweeting at you.
I've been adding followers for some inexplicable reason.
People were tweeting at you. And
I look at my ads. I do see that.
The fans want to talk to you, and guess what? You flip them off.
Get onto my Instagram. You can find
Nobody's on your Instagram.
My Instagram is beautiful.
I don't take pictures. I don't look at pictures.
Okay. All right, blind boy.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real Will Link. I got no shows coming
to hold
up.
you down.
You know what? I got to get back out into shows. I say this every week, but I just emailed some friends of the show, like Pablo and Mars, about maybe doing Tell It sometime.
You should go on Oscar's show. You need people.
I got to go on Oscar's show. I got to go on Megan's show. I'm going to be doing some shows soon.
Hold tight, people.
Hold tight.
Winter's coming.
I need to write some new essays. I've been too busy writing novels.
Oh, fancy pants over here.
Fancy pants novel.
Maybe you can write an essay about what it's like to write a novel.
I was thinking I should go down. I was wondering if I should go down to Muse and read sections of my novel.
Do you have excerpts that you think could work in isolation?
Yeah, like the first chapter, a couple of chapters here and there. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Let's see what the
Maybe you
people
feel a
think.
little lazy. You just want to get up there and just
That's kind of what
get
it
the
is.
cobwebs off.
That's kind of what it is. On the show next week, James
Gangle?
Gangle?
It's got two consonants in a row.
James Gangle.
Canadian.
He's Canadian. It's a weird name. Weird Canadian name. But he's a comedian, storyteller. He's very funny.
Actor, writer.
He's a quadruple threat.
Yes. Why is Canadian one of the threats?
Mm-hmm.
He will be here next week.
He's a very funny man.
Yeah. And you know what? Since that'll be our first show, first official recording in the Trump presidency. Maybe he can give us some tips on how to move to Canada.
Yeah. Can we gay marry him and then move with him?
Exactly. Can I gay marry him too?
Yeah, yes.
We're gonna get into a gay polygamous marriage with him.
I feel like
Can we do a Mormon
we're gonna big love this shit. Get us out of here.
So, Jessica, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For the Will Sean Podcast, I'm Sean David.
I'm Willie.
And we're finished.
We're finished.